Rebecca Zung here, and today we're going to be talking about narcissists and their motivations and what makes them tick, and why do you want to know this when you're going to negotiate with them, when you're dealing with them on a day-to-day basis. You can get inside of their brains and you can start going on the offensive instead of being on the defensive. You can actually start feeling like you are the powerful ones. You are the ones in control for a change. And believe me, I have been where you are. I've been feeling like I'm going crazy. I've been the one who feels powerless. I've been, up at night feeling like, what the hell? How can I get to where I want to go? And this is, after I've had a law practice, this is after I have dealt with all sorts of narcissists or high conflict personalities in my life. So I don't want any of you to ever feel like that ever again. I want you to know what their motivations are. I want you to know what makes them tick so that by the end of this video, you are going to understand inside the brain of a high conflict personality, a narcissist, whether it's your mom or your dad or your sister, your brother or your boss or that colleague at work that's driving you insane. I want you to understand that. How do they tick? What makes them tick? What motivates them? Well, obviously, a lot of you have heard of the concept of supply, narcissistic supply. It's this deep, dark hole that's inside of them. A lot of people think that they're so confident, they're so self-assured. It's this big facade. The truth of the matter is they're the most insecure people. They're very scarcity minded people. They're very sad people inside in a lot of ways, but they're never going to admit that to you. What they do is they try to get supply in any way that they can. The way I like to describe it is that there's a couple of different tiers of supply. So there's what I call diamond level supply, and there's what I call coal level supply. So this diamond level supply is what I call the best form of supply, the image. It's all about what the window dressing, what things look like on the outside, okay? So how they look to the world, and they will protect and defend that at any cost. It's how they look at work, how they look to the people that mean something the most to them. That is a key factor when you are dealing with a narcissist. You got to understand that, whether it's in your personal life or your professional life, because they will protect that at any cost. That is what makes them tick more than anything. And then there's something called coal level supply, what I call coal level supply, and that is manipulating people. That's driving them crazy. That's seeing them squirm. It could be passive aggression. It could be smearing people. It's pushing people down to make themselves feel better about themselves. Okay. They want all of it, but they will let go of that coal level supply if they have to, but only if that diamond level supply is threatened. They thrive on that diamond level supply. They thrive on adulation. They thrive on praise. But if you let that go, then they will almost trade that for that manipulation, for that coal level supply. They want it all. So most people think narcissists just want to win, or maybe they just want money, or whatever that is. That is totally false. That really is just a myth. They want both. They want to be able to win. They want to be able to beat you. Also want to be able to manipulate you, jerk you around, control you. They want all of that. It's complex in a way, but it's also very easy in a way. It's rooted in their deep seated insecurities, their need for validation. So one of the things is this need for self-importance, their need for praise. So if you're in a romantic relationship, for example, they start off by making you feel like you're the most special person in the world, but it's really only because they want it in return. It's to kind of build you up so that you're going to give that back in return. And as soon as you stop feeding their ego, you're going to be done anyway. I mean, because you've got to meet this unrealistic expectation that they're going to they're going to have up here, and they're going to resort to these manipulation tactics, ghosting, discard, all of these things to keep you on your toes so that you can keep feeding that ego for them, keep driving their insatiable need for attention in any possible way that they can get it from you, to keep driving the attention back to them in any way possible. At work, it's the same kind of a thing. They need attention, whether it's from superiors, from colleagues, from people who work under them. They've got to be seen as the best. They've got to be seen as the brightest. They will undermine coworkers. They will take credit for other people's work. They will manipulate situations to be perceived as superior, whether it's ill-gotten or not. They don't care. Their motivation lies in being indispensable, even at the expense of others. And if you agree with me, put agree in the comments below. And I would also love to see, what you guys have had, what your situations have been, what your experiences have been. Share in the comments. It's important to recognize that behind the facade of this confidence, of this boasting, of this bragging, if it's a covert narcissist, it might be, I'm always the victim, or I can never get my way, or nobody ever recognizes me. Whatever type of narcissist you're dealing with, that it's this fragile ego that you're dealing with, that they fear rejection the most and abandonment the most. That's the worst thing that you can possibly do with them. And it drives their constant need for validation. If you are dealing with a narcissist and you're dealing with them in a negotiation setting, grab my free Crush My Negotiation prep worksheet. You can get that at winmynegotiation.com. It's a free 15-page e-booklet. I totally recommend that you get that. winmynegotiation.com. Totally effective for phrases for disarming narcissists, strategies for disarming narcissists. You can get that there. The link is also in the description below. Another key way that you can understand the narcissist motivations, what makes them tick, is their relentless pursuit of power. They need power. They need control. That is another huge thing that makes them tick. They have to see themselves as superior. They have to believe that they are entitled. They know that they are entitled. They feel that they are entitled. They feel that they are superior. They feel that they should have special privileges. They exert their control over everyone in any way that they possibly can, in family dynamics, in work dynamics. They leave people feeling like they're suffocated a lot of times. Their individuality is not allowed, or they put people down. They may mock people. They may express disdain. You try to start a new business. Well, that'll never work. Well, that's kind of a stupid idea, or whatever it is. They have to have control at all times. If it's a workplace setting, they create a toxic environment. It has to be driven by fear. It has to be driven by insecurity. They have to micromanage people. They can't foster a culture of independence, of abundance, because they don't believe in that. They're afraid. It's insecurity. It's fear. It's all fear-based. That's just the type of person that they are. They catch people in their webs and they want to hold tightly to them. And so that's what makes them tick. Understanding these motivations is the first step in your freedom, in your power, in your journey to possibility, to purpose, to breathing again. And believe me, I know at the deepest level of your core. Covert narcissist. They have a public persona that is totally different than their private persona. I think they are in some ways the most dangerous kind of narcissist, because everybody else thinks they are so wonderful. This is the kind that I had to deal with as a family member and as a business partner. And I think it's really, really very, very, very difficult, because it's death by 1,000 cuts. And it's really, really, really hard when you're trying to tell somebody about it. You go to tell somebody about it and everybody thinks, well, that doesn't sound so bad. Let's dive in. The first hidden habit is that subtle underminer. A covert narcissist is very passive aggressive. And so what they will do is they might subtly put you down. What's the name of that thing again that you had? I can never remember. And you're thinking, how can you not remember? It's like just that little subtle thing, just to let you know that it's a little jab, or they might disguise an insult as a joke or a backhanded compliment. One of my daughter's boyfriends one time said, our kids are going to have the best of all worlds. They're going to have my brains and your work ethic. Just like a little backhanded compliment like that. Like just like a little passive aggressive thing. It's so bold. Something like that. Or what is that on your thing? On your dress like that? Oh, that's actually part of the dress. Go something like that. It's just like a little sort of disguised backhanded thing. Passive aggressive behavior that's just sort of subtly meant to put somebody down. It's just right under the radar because they've got this underlying rage, this underlying jealousy that's just there under the surface. But everybody else thinks that they're so nice. And they have this persona that they're such a good person. They could be humanitarians, they could be pastors, they could be lawyers, they could be doctors, they could be pillars of society. That's what's so difficult about the covert narcissist. They're passive aggressive oftentimes. Another one is the emotional withdrawal. They punish you by withdrawing affection, withdrawing emotion. They give you the silent treatment, suddenly becoming cold and distant. Instead of the grandiose narcissist that's telling everybody how great they are, or telling you, hey, you're an asshole, or whatever, give you the cold shoulder for days, refusing to acknowledge your presence. Just all of a sudden, you just don't know what's going on. So this is the emotional withdrawal, the covert narcissist. So, and if any of these habits sound familiar so far, don't worry. You're not alone. And if you need phrases for disarming narcissists to handle these situations, get my free phrases for disarming narcissists at disarmthenarc.com so that you can have something at the ready. You can get them and use them for your text messages, for your emails, for communicating with narcissists. It'll help you. If you face these, share your stories in the comments. Your experience could help others, and say, I've seen it. Put that in the comments. So habit number 3 is the victim stance. Covert narcissists are experts at playing the victim. They twist stories to make it seem like they're being wronged. You go and ask them, hey, where's the thing that you were supposed to do for me? Now they're oppressed. How could you ask that of me? Even if it was something that they suggested they were going to do. It's their way of getting sympathy, manipulating others. The victim stance. I can't believe you're asking this of me. You know how much I've been dealing with. They twist things. My air conditioning was out. This person didn't show up at my house. Whatever it is, they're the victim. Habit number 4, the quiet saboteur. Unlike overt narcissists, they'll file false pleadings, they'll lie right in your face. No, they quietly spread rumors, and they do it in the form of care. I'm so worried about Kim, just concerned about her and her drinking. She's just, I don't know. I'm just worried about her. They spread rumors subtly to discredit, to set you up to fail without overt hostility. Spreading rumors. It's the quiet saboteur. Oh, I didn't get an email from so-and-so. I don't know why. I usually do. That sort of thing. And finally, habit number 5, master of guilt tripping. Covert narcissists are adept at making you feel guilty for their problems. Oh, it's fine if you don't come. I'll just be here by myself, or I'll handle it myself. I do everything. They want you to feel responsible for their happiness or their well-being. And so you have to be the one who takes care of them. It's all right. I'll be over here. And so you end up feeling guilty. The one thing that you need to do is have boundaries around these people. And that's why it's so important for you to recognize these signs and say, it's not okay. If you want to put that in the comments below right now, it's not okay. And if you need additional support, join my Facebook group, Narcissist Negotiators with Rebecca Zung. It's an amazing support group. And recognizing these hidden habits will start to empower you so that you can navigate and negotiate these dynamics effectively. Knowledge is your shield, it's your strength, it's your power. I know sometimes people think, why do they go back? Why do they stay? Why don't they remember things? Why do they seem like they're crazy? And we're going to be talking about a lot of this today and diving into all of this. So if you're new here, welcome. I'm glad that you're here. Please stick around by subscribing to this channel and hitting that notification bell, because we're building an army, we're building a community of empaths who are rising up and fighting the good fight against high conflict personalities, against narcissistic abuse. And we want you to feel like you're finding your people, finding your vibe tribe, finding a place that you can feel empowered. I'm glad that you're here. So a lot of times what happens is over time, when you've been in a relationship with a narcissist, that cortisol has built up in your system for so long, you can't even think straight anymore. And so you've got brain fog and CPTSD. You start to think and question what your reality is after a while, because you've been gaslit and gaslit and gaslit over and over and over again, which means that you've been told that what you think is not true, what you believe you're seeing, what you believe you're experiencing is not happening. You're no longer even trusting your own perceptions. You're no longer even trusting what you know anymore. And it's almost like being in a cult, like that the person that you rely on for everything is this other person. Many people think, why don't they just leave? And so what happens is with the love bombing, your dopamine levels are so high, and that's the hormone of addiction. And then they take it away into discard, and now your cortisol levels are so high also, and now you're craving that dopamine from that person, and that causes the trauma bond in that person. And so now it's complex. I mean, the whole physiological addiction to that person is complex. A lot of people don't understand that. That can be difficult for people to understand. And a lot of people find that strange. A lot of people find it strange. Like, why don't they just leave? Why don't they just leave? So that's one of the strange behaviors of victims of narcissistic abuse. Okay. I understand that they're enduring all this manipulation and psychological abuse or whatever it is, and they're staying. Why? Because there's highs and lows and highs and lows, right? And it's hard to break free from that cycle. It's hard to break free from that cycle of abuse. And the person who themselves is the victim is usually a people pleaser, and they've got their own wounds and their own things that they need to heal and their own traumas, and the abuser knows how to play into those things and knows exactly what to say all the time. They're constantly going back to that well of that person. I can't tell you how many people have come to me and said, this isn't me. This isn't who I am. I've never been this person before. But it's so common. It is so common. The other thing that seems strange to people is how the narcissist can seem so calm and the victim seems so crazy. But it's reactive abuse. What happens is the narcissist is here, and then they make the person go crazy because they then go around telling everybody and smearing the victim. And then the victim finally goes crazy. And then they go, look, there's the crazy one. There's the one. And they're calm, cool, and collected. And that seems strange to people. But if people who don't understand narcissism don't get that, that's part of it too. And I talk a lot more about that in my book, Slay the Bully: How to Negotiate with a Narcissist and Win. And if you also just want free phrases for disarming narcissists, you can just get those at disarmthenarc.com, or you can join my free private Facebook group, Narcissist Negotiators with Rebecca Zung. Don't do this alone, okay? Sometimes have so much brain fog that your memory is affected, or you have so much trauma in your body from CPTSD, which is complex post traumatic stress disorder, that you have health issues. And so that is part of it too. I've had so many testimonials from people who've been through my high conflict certification programs or my SLAY programs, after they've been out of this for like a year or two, completely can think straight again, who once they've broken free, they can think straight again. I know, like Michael, who spent years in a narcissistic relationship with a partner, was constantly belittled and invalidated. Finally, once he broke free, he said he realized he wasn't even trusting his own judgment. Once he started looking back, he was like, he didn't even realize how much he was putting up with, or what the depths were, until he started to get like some distance between himself and the relationship, right? So how do you break free from these patterns and reclaim your power? It starts with education. It starts with awareness. It starts with recognizing the signs and understanding what's going on with narcissistic abuse and dynamics at play. And we can begin to unravel the web of manipulation and take back control of our lives. If you start to do that, you can start to put that invisible shield down around you and start to heal and start to become the whole version of yourself that you already are, and start to feel that. Before we begin, let me lay the groundwork for understanding what's happening with a narcissist. First of all, most of us think, oh, they have so much confidence. They think so highly of themselves. They have more confidence than anybody. Actually, the opposite is true. They have more shame than anybody. They have more self-hatred than anybody. It's actually the worst form of that. It's almost like somebody who has the worst pain. If you have like a horrible toothache, or somebody hits your thumb with a horrible hammer, all you can think about is that pain. And that's why they lack empathy. But what drives that? When they were children, they actually were exposed to trauma on a regular basis. And when we as humans are exposed to trauma, our bodies respond by emitting chemicals into our bodies. Our brains dump chemicals into our bodies to allow us to prepare to fight or to flee, right? We end up sweating, our hearts race. Epinephrine, it's adrenaline. When that happens on a regular basis, it can cause actually damage to the brain. And so what has happened is that the limbic system part of their brain actually sustained damage. There was an arrested development that happened to that part of the brain. So while the prefrontal cortex part of the brain continued to develop, that limbic system part of their brain did not. And that is the part of the brain that when they are presented with stimuli that causes them to feel triggered, and it could be anything that could be triggering to them that isn't necessarily rational or reasonable to us, to somebody who else, let's just say, to somebody who considers it irrational. How do they do it? They are so cruel. They're so awful. And today we're going to be exploring specifically the 3 most cruel narcissistic behaviors. They're the most destructive of them all, the ones that leave you like in the dust, and they have a profound impact on their victims. and end up leaving their victims, or I prefer to say targets, because you can actually break free from their grip. They end up staying as narcissists, you end up breaking free. And I talk about this actually in my new book, Slay the Bully: How to Negotiate with a Narcissist and Win, which you can get at slaythebully.com. If you go there, you actually get lots of really cool bonuses, by the way. But what happens is it leaves you feeling emotionally scarred and struggling sometimes to rebuild your life because of how cruel they can be. So, if you've ever wondered what lies behind that mask of a narcissist, which they deeply try to cover, which they want to make sure that you never get to see, then you are in the right place. So, let's dive right in. So, the very first behavior, which is just horrible, is criticizing and devaluing their victims. Now, sometimes they're overtly doing it, like, you're stupid, you're awful, whatever. And sometimes they're more passive aggressive about it, more like a covert narcissist can be, where you're not really quite sure, hey, what was that, but they have a twisted way of making their victims feel inadequate and worthless by constantly criticizing them. Sometimes it's death by a thousand cuts. I just want to kind of go through a few of the examples of the way they do this. Whether you're in a professional relationship with them or a personal relationship with them, why it's so awful is the fact that they are grandiose about the way they come on. They love bomb you at the beginning and make you feel like you're so special and make you feel like you are the most amazing person on the planet right from the beginning, right? And then they come and smash you to the ground. Then it becomes, you're never going to amount to anything, and you're not as talented as you think you are. Did you even take a look at that? Who would even ever listen to you? I just heard somebody recently talk about how they speak on a stage, and their father said to them, who would ever listen to you? Because, when you were a kid, we would have paid you to shut up, so something like that, like, oh, people are paying you to speak. When you were a kid, we would have paid you to shut up, something like that. Like, it's so hurtful. So, and these hurtful comments, they gradually erode at your self-esteem, leaving you to feel insignificant, leaving you to feel undeserving of anything, undeserving of success, undeserving of living sometimes. Sometimes even people can ridicule your hobbies, your interests, like, oh, what are you doing that for? Why are you starting that kind of a business? I mean, I remember even when I went back to law school years ago, I had 3 children already and I was still young. I was still in my 20s at that point. But, I remember one person said to me, there's so many lawyers, everybody who's, I know somebody who graduated from law school and they're bagging groceries. And I remember thinking, well, not everybody who graduates from law school is going to be bagging groceries. Somebody's going to get a job. Why wouldn't it be me? If you listen to these things, then you can play into that and it becomes the neuronal pathways of your brain. So people can make snide remarks. You're wasting your time with that. And people can demean you and eventually exert control over you and diminish your sense of self-worth. So, and that the constant barrage of criticism can lead to anxiety. It can lead to depression. It can lead to emotional scars that can take years to heal. Sometimes people never heal from it. And by the way, I have a whole video on how to identify a narcissist just from conversation. And I would definitely check that out if I were you. And if you guys have felt this, give me a totally in the comments. The next one is withholding affection for leverage. So they're masters of manipulation, and especially in negotiations, which is what I specialize in. And one of their cruelest tactics involves deliberately withholding affection. So let's consider a couple of more examples to illustrate this point. In a parent-child relationship, for example, a narcissistic parent will withhold affection whenever a child does not conform to their expectations. So they give their child cold shoulders, to refuse a hug or a kiss, or completely ignore the child for days as punishment. And this emotional manipulation creates a constant sense of longing in that child who desperately craves that love and validation from that parent. As they get older, then they create these patterns again in their life where they feel completely unworthy, and they might end up in relationships with people who withhold affection, where they desperately are trying to heal that in themselves by finding people who they think that they can love back to health. And they think that if they can get this person to love them, then it'll heal that wound, and they never end up doing it. In, a romantic relationship, a narcissistic partner might use physical intimacy as a bargaining chip. They might withhold sex as a form of physical affection, as a means to control the partner's behavior and force compliance. That's why they do that. It leaves that victim feeling undesired and unloved and trapped in a cycle of feeling, seeking that validation and intimacy from that narcissistic person. It's very, very sad. The narcissist probably does want that affection, but they just don't know how to go about it in any other way other than in a way that's unhealthy like that. But the problem is with narcissists is that they don't know how to go about getting anything in any other way other than in a manipulative fashion. It's very sad. That's why, sometimes they lie for reasons they don't even need to lie about. And then behavior number 3 of the most cruel narcissistic behaviors is blaming their partner for their own negative emotions. And one of the most perplexing and damaging behaviors of narcissists is their tendency to blame their partners for any negative emotions that they experience. So, especially when it's clearly their own fault. Here's some examples of that to shed light on this. So, like in a work environment, for example, a narcissistic boss might explode in anger at an employee for their own failures or their own mistakes, or if the company is going awry or whatever. Everybody is going to feel the wrath of that. They might berate somebody. They might berate the team, blaming them if they're stressed out or if they're frustrated about something, even if it's due to their own poor management or their own decision making that caused the problem. Everybody else has to deal with that. You deal with the fallout of that. Or in a friendship, for example, a narcissistic individual might play the victim card, blaming their friends for their own unhappiness. You never make time for me, and that's why I'm sad. If you were a better friend, I wouldn't feel this way. It's not the friend's responsibility to make another person happy. This blame shifting tactic causes that other friend to try to make them feel guilty. And that's not right. It undermines the victim's self-confidence and fosters a sense of guilt and self-blame. Those are just a few of some narcissistic cruel behaviors, but I think those are the 3 most cruel behaviors and some of the examples that go along with it. All right. So yes, you cannot get a narcissist to actually change their personality, but you can get them to change how they will deal and interact with you. And I'm going to give you 6 ways to get them to change in how they deal and interact with you in this video. So stay tuned and watch all the way to the end so that you can see what I mean. What I mean is they've been conditioning you from the beginning. You have been dealing with them. They've been love bombing you. Now, this is whether you're in a romantic relationship, a business relationship, even a family relationship. Even if you've known them forever, they condition you. They expect you to act in a certain way. So what you have to do is condition them back. You have to let them know, hey, this ain't how it's going to go anymore. There's a new game in town. Things are changing, things are shifting. And the way that we've had a paradigm, the way things have gone before, ain't the way it's going to be anymore. So you're going to have to change. And so you're basically reconditioning them back. And the way I explain it and the way I want you to understand this is that it's the same as if you are dealing with a toddler. The same as if you're dealing with a 2-year-old who's having a tantrum. When 2-year-olds have tantrums and they're conditioning their parents, basically, the parents see the 2-year-old having a tantrum on the floor, right? And so for those of you who've had 2-year-olds, you know what I mean. What happens is the 2-year-old wants something. Let's say it's a bottle. And the 2-year-old is saying, I want that bottle. And the parents are going, nope, you don't get the bottle anymore. You have to use the sippy cup or whatever it is. The 2-year-old's like, I want the bottle. And so what happens is if the parents give in to that tantrum, then the next time the 2-year-old just goes, you know what? It worked last time. So next time I'm just going to scream louder. I'm just going to scream longer. I'm going to kick my heels. I'm going to flail my arms. I'm going to throw things. I'm going to become even more horrible. I'm going to make their lives miserable. I'm going to embarrass them in stores, whatever it is I need to do so that they will have to give in to me because I want that bottle. I want what I want right now. And then the parents go, oh my God, I can't take this. There's the bottle. And that's what's going on with narcissists. So until like those parents just go, you know what, I'm not going to do that anymore. The kid goes, you know what, apparently they're not giving in. I'm going to have to just give up on this. I'll just have to behave. I'll just have to, deal with it, take the sippy cup, and they finally just give up. But guess what? They're the worst right before they decide to give up. And that's what it is with narcissists as well. So you're basically, doing the same thing. You're reconditioning them. Do they change inherently? No, because they're not actually 2-year-olds. They're actually adults. But you are conditioning them to let them know there's a new game in town. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you these tips to let you know how to recondition them. Are you going to change them into loving people who have empathy, who now know how to care for people and become amazing human beings who no, you're not actually changing the narcissist spots, but you're changing them into how they will, treat you, respect you, or they're going to just get out of your life. All right. So here's what you're going to do. I'm going to give you 6 tips. Got it? Number 1, you're going to understand narcissism. You are going to start really getting into, that's why you're watching this channel. That's why you're reading the books. That's why you are getting all the knowledge that you possibly can, because honestly, the more you understand, the more you dig in, the more you really start powerfully understanding everything you can about narcissism, the different types of narcissism, the traits of narcissism, the traits of people that they target, you start to realize, hey, this ain't me. This is them. I can't take this personally. This is something that's, happens to people when they were young. And you start to realize, wow, this is something that, took place. And by the way, as I say all the time, narcissists didn't attach themselves to you because you had so little value. They attached themselves to you because you had so much value. They like sources of supply that have a lot of value. That's why they liked you in the first place, even though they gaslit you into believing you had no value. Understand narcissism. That's number 1. Number 2, set those boundaries. I always say, step one, don't run, set boundaries, obviously get away from them, but you're not running away. You're setting boundaries. The more you have fear, the more they smell it in the water. They're like sharks looking for that blood. And once they see that blood, they go for that. They go for that jugular. They know how to instill that in you. Set boundaries and stick to those boundaries. And then number 3 is don't be afraid of them. Don't be afraid to confront them. Don't be afraid of them. They respect people who aren't afraid of them. That's the only type of person that they actually respect. You can't have fear. I started to allude to that earlier, but as soon as you have fear, they read that, and then that gives them supply. Your fear actually feeds that. They get off on that. They get a high on that. That keeps them around. That keeps them coming back. They enjoy that. Most people don't want people to be afraid of them. That doesn't give them joy. It gives them joy. You don't want that. And the more you can say, I'm not afraid of this person. They're just a small little, they're actually more afraid of you than you are of them. And the more you can see that, the more you can uncover that, the more you peel back those onion layers and see that, the more you will understand that. So no fear. And I want you to put that in the comments right now. No fear. So don't be afraid. Don't be afraid of them. Don't be afraid to confront them. Don't be afraid to assert yourself. Assert what's fair. Assert what's best for you. Number 4 is related to that, and that is hold them accountable. Hold them accountable for their behavior. If you're in litigation and they don't do something that they're supposed to do, they don't provide discovery that they're supposed to provide, file a motion to compel, they violate a court order, file a motion, let the court know, make the court enforce that court order, ask for sanctions if you need to, if that's something that's available for that. Ask for attorney's fees if you can. Whatever you can do it. Don't sit by and go, well, I don't want to be the bad guy. I don't want to, hurt them. The more you do that, the more they get away with things, and you're not holding them accountable. And then they think that they are, still have some kind of power over you, some kind of control over you. And that's not okay. That's number 4. Number 5 is reward positive behavior. When they act the way you want them to, recognize that. Say, great job, or I'm glad you're using the parenting app like you're supposed to, or whatever it is that they're supposed to do. They do like their ego stroked, so if you fluff up their ego, it's a good thing. I know you don't want to do it, I know you don't enjoy those kinds of things, but, I always say fluff for favor, vomit later, because it helps you to ethically manipulate the manipulator, and it helps you to get some things that you want down the road. If, don't do it just to do it to get some things that you want, right? So reward positive behavior if it's going to help you. And then number 6 is the final thing, and that is to totally ignore when they are trying to bait you. This is so important. Probably the most important. This is something they totally get off on, is trying to bait you. And they will try to do this constantly in a myriad of different ways, probably infinite ways, thousands and thousands and thousands of ways. It will go on forever as long as you allow it to. I can't even name the number of different ways that they will continue to try to bait you. But, and depending on the type of narcissist you're dealing with, the way they bait is also infinite as well. But, they will constantly try to bait you. The more you can find yourself ignoring it, rising above, smiling through it, the better it will be for you, because, that gives them narcissistic supply. It also gives them things that they can use against you as well. The more you react to it, remember, everything you put your hand to is a potential trial exhibit as well. So make sure that you don't give them any kind of things that they can use against you either, by the way. That doesn't help you at all. I know it's really hard. I know it's extremely difficult, especially, if you've been traumatized by them for years and years and years. Definitely get the help and support that you need. It could be a tone, it could be an eye roll, it could be anything, it could be nothing, it could be something that nobody did, but they perceived it to be something. Then they see that as something that triggers that limbic system. And now that narcissistic injury takes back over, and they are now thinking with that part of the brain is now activated. That's what you're dealing with, instead of the prefrontal cortex part of their brain. And so when you go to negotiate with them, you're not dealing with rational, you're not dealing with reasonable. And it is extremely difficult because they're not even working with rational or reasonable for themselves. And that's why, they will take themselves down to take you down. At that point, they will do ridiculous things like ignore court orders or file ridiculous pleadings or lie about things that are readily verifiable. They constantly do things that are manipulating. And that's what drives these tendencies. There's actually a physiological thing that's going on inside their brain. I've actually read that their hypothalamus is even smaller in some brain scans than other people's hypothalamus. So while many people are dealing with people in a rational, reasonable sense and trying to overlay rational and reasonable, you cannot, because their brains are literally thinking in a different way than other people's brains. This is a person who has either experienced emotional neglect or some sort of emotional trauma. Their brain has responded in such a way to shield themselves as a defense mechanism in early childhood so that they don't experience further hurt. Into adulthood, you actually are dealing with a person who is a child stuck in an adult's body emotionally. But the problem with that is that when you go to negotiate with that, when you go to interact with that, when you go to deal with that, when they feel like they are being attacked, which is, anytime you're trying to break up with that, negotiate with that, you're on the other side with that, it's a problem. And they're constantly trying to get narcissistic supply from that. They're constantly trying to get fuel from that. And many people think, oh, they just want to win. But that's not necessarily true, because winning is only one form of supply. Winning is only how they look to the world. It completely discounts that they also love to manipulate you. They also love to see you squirm. Just the process of the vindictiveness of making your life miserable is also something that they enjoy. As long as they are getting that source of fuel from you, as long as they are getting that source of supply from you, They will also never leave you alone. You have to threaten that source of supply as well. What narcissists do when you're not looking, what are they doing? The first thing they'll be doing, they're going to be stalking you. I mean, maybe not openly. Some of them might be doing it openly. Hopefully not. If they are, definitely call the police or whatever you need to do to protect yourself. But they're going to be looking at your social media. They're going to be trying to figure out what it is that you're up to. They might send out their little minions to go check out and see what you're doing. That's why you want to try to block them on social media if you can. Block them, change all your passwords. Make sure that you change passwords on your social media, on all your logins, maybe even monthly for a while if you need to. Go no contact as soon as you can, for sure. They're going to be checking out to see what it is that you're doing, if they can. They're not going to take it lying down, even if they are walking away from you. That's the crazy thing, because they still want to get their form of supply from you if they can. They're going to want to keep their new form of supply, but they also want to keep the old form of supply from you if they can. They like it all. What else are they going to be doing while they're gone and you've left? Okay. And you've said, okay, this is fine. They're going to be telling everybody that they left you, that it was fine, that this is what they wanted anyway, that it's a good thing, because they want to preserve some level of whatever. So now they want to make sure that you get smeared before you can smear them. They want to expose you before you can expose them. They want to take you down before you can take them down. So this is where the birth of that smear campaign comes in. They got to rewrite history. They've got to get everybody on board. So brace yourself for this one. Even if they say, oh, I want this to be nice. I want this to be as good as possible. Let's part as friends. You can't believe this. I mean, if they were lying when they were with you, whether it was as business partners or as a boss or a colleague or whoever it was, they're not going to be suddenly wonderful at the end. It doesn't make any sense. So you can't believe that they're going to be. They will tarnish your reputation. They will spread lies about you, and they will recruit those quote unquote flying monkeys, the people that they want to be like on their side in their army because they're all insecure. They don't want to feel like they're by themselves. They want you to feel abandoned and alone. They want you to feel isolated. They want you to feel ganged up on. They want you to feel bullied. They want you to feel like you're wrong, they're right, and they're higher and you're lower. It's crucial for them to stay strong and you're the weak one. And so they want to be the one doing all the manipulating. And so they want to be the one using their tactics on you. And so they will line up their smear campaign. And is it going to be open and like this? Maybe, but maybe not. It might be in terms of care. That's how a covert narcissist tends to be. A covert narcissist tends to be more in terms of care. So it might look more like, oh, I'm so concerned about Susie. I'm so worried about her. And, she's been so depressed. She's just been, I don't know how she's going to make it. I don't know if Susie's going to be able to take care of the kids. I want to help her. I just want to help her and just be supportive. So it comes through like that, even though, the person's really smearing Susie in terms of care. You got to be careful about those ones, those covert ones, even though they're smearing the person. So sometimes it's more like that. Sometimes the smearing is in terms of guilt. Oh, I can't believe that they left me here all alone with no money. And you're left with plenty in the bank account and you never really left in the first place, but they make it seem like you left with nothing. There's that kind of smearing too. There's the guilt kind of smearing, playing the victim card, making it seem like telling everybody who will listen, like you abandoned them, you abandoned the kids, they're the suffering one, you're the heartless one, you ran off,
designed to guilt trip the whole world, that sort of thing. There's that as well. Anybody who'll listen, you're heartless, you're abandoned, you're cruel, they're the victim. So there's the smearing, rewriting history. Then what else is going to happen while you're gone? They're going to be brooding. They're going to be depressed. They're going to be by themselves, thinking how horrible it's been, rewriting history. They were so good. They gave you everything. How could you be doing this? They might be sending you messages. I can't believe you're abandoning me or this company or this family or this thing. So they might be trying to send you something. They might be trying to send you something that might be, oh, that wasn't meant for you. Getting my cancer results back this week. Oh, was that for you? Oh, I didn't mean to send that to you. Oh, you wouldn't want to be worried about that. Don't you worry yourself about that. Just to try to hook you in, try to get you interested, trying to suck you back into the whole zone of drama. Stalk you, tell everybody how awful it's been, tell everybody you left, plot and plan, feel sorry for themselves, rewrite history, smear you, look for ways to plot at you, tell their story to you, tell everybody who will listen, look for ways to plot at you, look for ways to smear you, tell everybody who will listen. But fear not, my warriors, I've got a little something for you. If you want strategies to stay strong during no contact, I got something for you. While they're gone, and then they suddenly appear, that's called hoovering. So what you're going to do when you see that little Hoover DM pop up in your phone or in your Instagram or in your Facebook or in your email or whatever, you're going to see it and you're going to go, oh, I know what you are. Oh, um, no, I'm not falling for that. So you're just going to say, boundaries. And so I want you to put that in the comments below. Boundaries right now. Boundaries. Be aware of such little plots and twists and plans. You're not going to fall for it. Another thing is, that little guilt trip thing through families and friends where they try to use your family and friends to guilt trip you. They'll have your cousin come. Oh, she's not doing so well. Can't you come and talk to her? Can't you just try? Or, a business partner or somebody that try to communicate through somebody close to you so they can try to understand what's going on. No, don't allow it. Keep to your boundaries. Another thing that they will try to do is they'll see that you're not responding. They attempt to get at you by completely ghosting you, completely getting you to get back at you through not responding at all. Stay strong. Focus on your healing journey. That's what you need to focus yourself on. There you have it. That's what narcissists do when you go no contact with them. They're going to try every trick in the book, but you're going to be armed with this knowledge and you're going to stick strong to your self-care and you can rise above this manipulation. Everything they do is a manipulation. Remember that.
I have been there going crazy and wondering what in the heck is going on. I did not realize that there was such a thing as a covert narcissist. I thought narcissists were loud, bragging people who would boast and tell everybody how great they are, people who would go around demanding the best tables in restaurants, or people who were, men who were misogynistic. I really did not realize that there was such a thing as a covert narcissist, a person who could actually be a female, for example. When I was in a situation where I was in a business partnership with somebody who was female, for one thing, I found myself going crazy and feeling really bad with this person. And this is after I'd had my law practice as a very successful attorney. I've been recognized by US News as one of the best lawyers in America. I mean, had a career. I was so confused about what was going on. I didn't realize that this person could be a narcissist until somebody had actually pointed out to me that that's what this person was. And so I think it's important for you to also understand what the differences are between a covert and an overt narcissist. I mean, they're both narcissistic, meaning that they have these underlying feelings of emptiness inside. They don't feel any sort of value inside. They're trying to get all their feeling of value from external sources, but they go about it in very, very different ways. The grandiose or overt narcissist goes about it in very overt ways, very grandiose type of personality, whereas the covert narcissist is a much stealthier type of narcissist. They try to avoid that spotlight unless it's kind of a stealth sort of a way. They kind of go about things in a more of a passive aggressive kind of a way. They're a little bit more introverted, and they don't have that brash sort of personality that you generally tend to see with an overt narcissist. And they don't want to risk any sort of public humiliation. It's more of a victim-y sort of personality. And that's what you sort of see with a covert narcissist. I mean, I remember thinking, oh, I don't think this person is a narcissist. I think they're just really, really insecure, which is true. So number one thing that you're going to see with a covert narcissist is you're going to see this as a person who is very passive aggressive. You know, they're going to criticize from the sidelines. They're going to judge from the sidelines, but they're more passive aggressive, meaning they'll maybe agree to do things. They're agreeable from outside, but they're criticizing on the inside. Like, everybody thinks that they're super nice. They smile a lot. Oh, yes, absolutely, I will do that thing. But then they maybe just don't follow through. They just don't do it. Or they might inadvertently leave you off of that email at work. Oh, I thought I put you on there. I didn't mean to leave you off. You know, it's very passive aggressive types of things where you're finding yourself, should I say something? Should I not? That's the sort of thing you'll see with a covert narcissist. Not overt in your face, covert. Second thing that you're going to see with them is that they're very condescending. They act superior. But again, very underlying. They'll belittle you in a covert sort of a way. Oh, that's so great that you've lost all that weight. I mean, too bad about the stretch marks, but I mean, my gosh, so great that you did that. You know, kind of condescending, sort of superior, often a little bit sarcastic, belittling you, but just under the surface, it's I'm so nice. I just gave you a compliment. I'm so sorry if you took it that way. They've always kind of got this plausible deniability right there. They're very good at just skimming that surface of being able to deny that they did anything wrong right there. The next thing is they're very, very threatened by direct questioning or direct honesty. I know that I've been in situations like this with covert narcissists. And, you know, when you go directly to them and you ask them pointed questions about something that, why didn't you do this? Or what's going on with this? That's when they become like the victim. Oh my gosh, I can't believe that you would question me, and they might start crying if they're a female. This is when it becomes about them, and they become, I can't believe you question my honesty or something like that. They're very, very threatened when you start directly questioning them on anything. The next thing is they swing very much between, with the person that they idealize, they swing very much between, like, they think this person is fantastic, and then they also are putting this person down. It's like they think the person is ideal and they put them on a pedestal, but then they also are devaluing them in some way. And it's very, very, very confusing. Clearly, number 5, their public image is totally different than the person that they are behind closed doors. Person that they want everybody to see is oftentimes a humanitarian. They're the first person to show up when somebody is sick. They're the first person that shows up at the hospital, or they send the baskets. They make sure that their public image is absolutely pristine. Many times these people are clergy, they're doctors, they're nurses, they're attorneys. They're very good people. The majority of the people see them as that person. Many times, the only person who knows them to be this covert narcissist is their target, or just the few people that they target. It's definitely quite different. The next thing is that they often are quite unreasonable with what their expectations are of people, especially their people that they target, whoever it is that their person is. That's number 6. Number 7 is that whatever your issues are become their reason for being a victim. For example, they didn't do something that they were supposed to do. And so you question them about that. Well, then that becomes their drama about it. They had a funeral, they had a this, they had a that, and now it's whatever it is much, much bigger. And then the fact that you attack them about it, it makes you the bad person. And then you end up basically apologizing to them. And so your issue never even gets addressed. And in fact, you feel bad about it. The next thing is number 8 is that they use other people's vulnerabilities. I'm trying not to use certain situations that I know so well in my life, because I don't want the narcissist in my life to come knocking on my door again. But so, for example, if they see that that somebody is sick, they will go show up to that situation and make sure that they are seen doing all the things that they need to be seen doing in that situation. But if there's not an audience, then they won't be there. They like to use other people's vulnerabilities for their own use. The next thing is extremely, extremely reactive to any kind of criticism. Highly, highly easily slighted, highly easily reactive to criticism. They cannot take any sort of criticism whatsoever. The next thing is that they oftentimes fake illnesses, fake injuries. I know some that are often chronically ill or chronically injured because they get attention for that. They get attention from not just their spouse, but they also get attention from others in the community or people around them. And so they are just chronically sick so that they can get people to have sympathy for them. Covert narcissists like to be the victim. Sometimes they're even called the vulnerable narcissist, because a lot of times they can be downtrodden or that sort of thing. It's sad. Honestly, it's so sad. And I want you to put that in the comments. It's so sad. So sad. even though, yes, it can be draining for you, honestly, you have to be sad for them because that's how they live. They will honestly, many times, compromise a relationship with their own family members in order to continue to get attention from others because they would rather have that. So the next one is they will stonewall people. In other words, they will just stop talking to people completely. If that is what they need to do, then that is what they will need to do. The next one is they completely have no introspection whatsoever, no self-awareness, no, like, let me take a look at my behavior. Let me take a look at how I need to be responsible for how I might have caused hurt or harm to this person and might need to apologize to this person and really have empathy for that. A lot of times you might just hear platitudes from them. They're just not aware of how their behavior actually impacts others. The next one is they're extremely envious of others, constantly looking at how other people are living, what they're doing, comparing themselves. And there's this underlying rage about it, underlying jealousy about it. They can't be happy for somebody else. If somebody else actually says something about, look at what I've done, or look at what my child has done. Oh, that's just great. That's great for you. They really can almost barely choke out a congratulations for them that's actually sincere. They really can't be happy for someone else. The next thing is that they often gossip. They often triangulate. They even often pit people against each other. They'll say things about this one to that one, and they'll say this one said this thing about that one so that they can get people to not like each other because they really want both of those people to rely on him or her. They want to be the center of everything, and they don't want those two people to be friends with each other. So they kind of gossip, but also want to divide people and keep people just friends or relying on them. That's that. The next one is they constantly need reassurance. How did I do? I want acknowledgement. Look at all the things that I did for you. You need to tell me how great I did. That's the next one. The next one is that they fixate on others. They fixate on other people and what they might have done to them or their misfortunes, or they almost get like obsessed with other people and what's going on with them. This goes back to that comparison thing too. They're just so wrapped up in what's going on with other people and what's going on with this person, that sort of thing. It's just it's exhausting. The next one is that they change with whoever it is that they're around. And because they're constantly working hard to flatter or fawn, to win favor, or to be with whoever the next person is that they're going to win favor with and get the best supply around. It's always this game to see who they're going to get the next best supply around. And so that it's this chameleon like behavior to sort of fawn or be flattered by, and working the room almost in a way, but trying to stay kind of stealth, and because they don't want to get too much attention, they're trying to stay humble. They don't want to be the center of attention because they don't want to make it look like they're bragging. And so that's sort of the next one. The next one after that is that they gaslight you. They gaslight you constantly. All narcissists gaslight, but covert narcissists really love to gaslight. They rewrite history to whatever version they want to rewrite history on. And they constantly try to make you think that you're crazy. We talked about that and you agreed, or they'll take pieces of conversations and work them in and conveniently try to make it seem like that was the version that was discussed, even though many times they know what was actually discussed, or they know what was the intent, or they know how things are supposed to be, but they almost purposely twist things just to make you crazy, just to have a conversation a certain way. It's a very exhausting way to live, but it's a gaslighting where it's a rewriting of history just to make you think that you're crazy, or rewriting of facts just to make you think you're crazy. The next one is an exaggerated sense of entitlement. They don't feel like things should apply to them. They feel superior. They feel like they should have a better situation than they do, or, the rules shouldn't apply to them. The situation shouldn't apply to them. Why does this one have that one and I don't? But yet they don't want to have to say it out loud. It's just sort of under the surface. You might know that this is how they feel, but the rest of the world doesn't know that that's how they feel. It's a smiling. It's like nothing is ever good enough for them. You can never satisfy them because nothing is ever good enough for them. The next one is that in some ways they admire the grandiose narcissist. They admire how the grandiose narcissist is so brash, is so confident, is just out there, because they kind of want to be like that themselves. They attach themselves to people who they think are going to make them look more special through association. So they're always looking to see who they can attach themselves to make themselves appear more prestigious just by association. That's number 20. We're almost there. And the last one, 21, is they love to use guilt and shame to control you and to punish you. That's what they love to do. They want to make you squirm, but through guilt, through shame. Oh, I can't believe you're doing this. I can't believe you're leaving me here. It's okay. I'll be okay. I'm over here by myself. That's all right. I'll be fine. That sort of thing. Guilt, shame to control you, to punish you. Coverts are the absolute worst. The worst one. You know why? Because everybody thinks that they're so nice. And then they're in there with you, death by 1,000 cuts, little passive aggressive things. I've been there. I dealt with it. I had a covert narcissistic business partner. And on the veneer, there are the sweet ones, the kind ones, the humanitarians, the ones that everybody else sees as the good people. But they're the ones that behind the scenes are doing these passive aggressive little things to literally make you feel like you're going crazy. That's why it is so hard to get out of these relationships, because you feel like if you do, the whole world is going to vilify you. You feel like if you do, no one is going to be on your side. One of the strangest behaviors that I've seen of covert narcissists is that being the victim is everything to them. In every covert narcissist is that they must put themselves into being a victim place. And that's what is so crazy about a covert narcissist, because many times people think of a narcissist as this bragging person, this person who goes around telling everybody how great they are. Many times when people say a narcissist, they don't think of a covert narcissist as being a narcissist. This is a person who is, I'm a victim. This person did this thing to me and I can never get my way and life isn't fair. Those are the kinds of things that you often see with a covert narcissist. But let me tell you, this is a person where being a victim means everything to them. And if you hang around them long enough, you'll see that this is the person who will refuse to say they're sorry unless they need to do it because there's an audience there. For the most part, they don't apologize. I know of a situation where somebody, showed up at a funeral. They weren't supposed to be there. They only showed up there in order to prove a point, in order to do it as a manipulation tactic. This is what they do. They act like, what? I was just showing that I love a person. I was just showing that I paying my respects. It's this kind of plausible deniability. And like, how can you question my ethics, my morals, my incentives, my motivations? This kind of potential double entendre when obviously what I meant was this. What are you talking about? That it was meant for a manipulation, that it was meant for something other than just that. When they know and everybody else knows that that's not what it was for. That attention means everything to them. Number 2 is stubbornly refusing to do things you ask them to do, even the smallest of things. It has to be their choice. They're so passive aggressive. If you ask them to do something, the answer is like they don't want to have to do anything, but they'll offer to do something. They want to have to offer to do something, but they don't want to be asked to do anything. Even if they would normally want to do it, or they want to have to participate, or if it's something they would want to do, but they don't want to be forced to have to do anything that they don't want to have to do by somebody that they consider to be the person that they think that they're being manipulated by or whatever. They don't want to be obligated to do anything. If you ask them to do it, the answer is just going to, they want to knee jerk and say no. Unless, of course, there's an audience. Then, of course, they want to. Then, of course, let me offer to do it. Very stubbornly refusing to do things that you ask them to do, even the smallest of things. Number 3, public persona, completely different than their private persona. That rage is always just below that surface. It's almost as if they just can't stand you. It's like there's this boiling underneath them all the time. Public persona is, look at me, look how helpful, look how kind I am, look what a good person I am. But at home or behind closed doors or at work or whatever it is, the business partner, I don't want to have to do it. I don't want to have to be there. I don't want to be there for you. There's that rage just below the surface, that withholding of information, all that little stuff right below the surface all the time. I'd love to know what you guys think so far. Give me a yes in the chat. Give me a comment below. What are you guys thinking so far? Would love to know some feedback. What are you thinking? Number 4 is holding grudges. One of the next strangest behaviors that you see about covert narcissists is that they hold grudges about something that you would have totally forgotten about for years, literally for years. And you didn't even realize they were holding a grudge about that particular thing until it got brought up. It's just the craziest thing with them. Like I said, with narcissists all the time, you're either for them or against them. So they hold grudges about things for years. That's one of the strangest things about covert narcissists. But the other thing about that's really strange is they don't even bother to tell you that you've slighted them in this way. They just hold it. So that's another thing that's pretty crazy. The other thing that I think is a strange behavior about covert narcissists is that they spend lavishly on certain things, but then they are super cheap about certain things. So you'll see that they will spend lavishly on themselves. They love to have the name brand things, but then they are super cheap about gifts and super cheap about tipping, super cheap about other things. So it seems really, really ironic in a lot of ways because, you'll see that they really want to have the very most expensive shoes, the very most expensive handbags, or the very most expensive cars or homes or whatever. But when it comes to gift giving, they buy the minimum that they can get away with, or the minimum that they can get away with as far as tipping. In a way, they are the most dangerous of all the narcissists because they aren't out and about with their narcissism. At least with the grandiose, they tell everybody how bragging and boastful they are. The next thing about that I think is really strange about covert narcissists is that they are chameleons. Wherever they are, whoever they're with, that's who they pick up the behavior about. And if they're with somebody who's kind of quiet, then they'll be more like that. They even kind of dress the part. I used to be the target of a covert narcissist, and she used to kind of dress exactly the way I would dress. And it was super weird. One of the things that covert narcissists will do is they will stare at you a lot. I don't know if you guys have seen this, but they will stare at you because they're kind of studying you because they want to start to be able to mirror you. And that is because they are chameleons, right? They want to be able to take on your personality and become like you so that you will like them more, so that they can start to love bomb you a little bit more, love bomb you when they need to. And remember, love bombing doesn't just happen at the beginning of the relationship. Love bombing can happen even during the relationship when they need it to manipulate you again and again and again. And the last strange behavior of a covert narcissist is the subtle put downs. They are very, very good at that. And they will work them in to the conversation when they need to. Something like, you look so great, since you've lost all the weight. I mean, too bad about the stretch marks, but I'm sure they'll go away. I mean, look at you. You look so much better. Subtle put downs. They're very good at that sort of thing. Those are the 7 strange behaviors of covert narcissists. They can drive you absolutely crazy.
So narcissistic supply is what narcissists need. They have this insatiable need for admiration, attention. It's this external need for feeling validated. Of course, all humans are inherently valuable, but they don't feel valuable inside. So they have to look for value from external sources. It's these deep-rooted insecurities pushing them to seek external validation. Celebrity friends, big houses, lots of money, all that sort of thing. Or it's degrading people, devaluing people, pushing people down, controlling others. They have this fragile, fragile, fragile ego, fragile little teeny self inside of them that they're constantly trying to cover up. Extremely sensitive to criticism. It leads them to be overly sensitive, and it leads them to overreact. It leads them to be impulsive, and it leads them to do things that they shouldn't necessarily do at times. So they have this cycle of relationships, and it all comes back to things that happened to them in their brain when they were kids, trauma responses that took place with them in their brains from childhood. And it's narcissistic injury that happened to them as a child. Their relationships cycle through these situations where they idolize people, they devalue them, then they discard, idolize, devalue, discard. This happens not just in their romantic relationships, but in professional relationships as well. And so what happens is you're either for them or against them. You're for them or against them. And if you're against them, then you are public enemy number one. And they don't trust anybody. And so if you're against them, then they have to go after you with absolutely everything. They have no empathy whatsoever. So it's this, I'm going to take you down. They will take themselves down to take you down. So what happens is they end up self-destructing. They are extremely impulsive, extremely reckless. A significant trait of many narcissists is that they are impulsive, often leading to reckless decisions without consideration of consequences. Think of somebody who just splurges on things. I've seen a situation one time where a husband will say, I'm going to burn the entire business to the ground because he wanted to hurt the wife, but it was his own business. He's not thinking about the fact that, well, now I'm not going to have a business anymore. It was because, he wanted to hurt her. These are the kinds of things that they'll do. Lack of self-awareness and reflection is another reason why they ultimately self-destruct. They lack the ability for introspection. They struggle to see their role in what happens with them. And they often externalize blame. It's always someone else's fault. It's never their fault. It's like a criminal that's always blaming the prosecutor for why they're in jail. They don't see that it was their behavior that landed them there. They can never take responsibility for their own behavior. That's how they ultimately self-destruct. They also burn bridges. They can never forgive anybody. They have constant broken relationships, constant trust. They don't trust anybody. That leads to a pattern of isolation and a reputation for being untrustworthy. They don't have any long-term relationships, any long-term friendship. They end up distancing themselves from pretty much everybody in their lives. So that ends up being their long-term self-destruction as well, because they don't even have long-term relationships with anybody in their families. And they lie. They end up lying, which is something that you can use for leverage in your cases, because you can always end up piecing together where they said this in one email, they said this in one text message, and you can pull it all together. And as long as you keep a record of everything, they'll never believe that you kept a documentation, that you kept a journal, that you kept it all together. That ends up being your leverage down the road. I know that you guys have seen this. So, if you guys have seen any of these things, just put it totally in the comments for what I've said so far. Just put totally in the comments, because this is what happens with them. I know so many times you guys have come into my offices, or you've commented online, or I've seen you come through my programs and you said, oh my gosh, they always win. It's not fair. Everybody always believes their lies. But the bottom line is, if you do the work, if you take the time to do the documentation and pull together your strategy, your leverage, and anticipate that this is how they're going to behave, you can turn this around and actually become the stronger party because of the fact that they always behave this way. The bottom line is that they're just big bullies. They are actually way more afraid of you than you are of them. They're very afraid of being exposed. They don't want their other forms of supply to know that this is how they are. They don't want people to know that they can't hold relationships, that they are impulsive, that they are this way. They take painstaking efforts to make sure that nobody else knows these things about them. And so if you threaten to potentially expose this about them, they will be very, very afraid, and you will have leverage against them. This is how you will build your leverage. And it does work. It works every single time. If you want to start Crushing Your Negotiation. Get my free Crush My Negotiation Prep Worksheet at winmynegotiation.com. It's a free 15-page ebook that you can download and get started. Many thousands of people have started winning their negotiations with just that free ebook alone. So go to winmynegotiation.com and get that to get yourself started. Just remember that many narcissists, they always start to come undone. It does happen. But you have to play that long game. You have to be patient. Don't allow yourself to be triggered by them, because that is exactly what they want to see. Just remember that you can do this. Stay the course. When their manipulations no longer work and they face the repercussions of their actions, they're going to experience professional and personal downfalls. It absolutely will happen. They will struggle, they will fall, and you can just walk away, break those trauma bonds, walk away. You will be stronger for it.